Good evening, hello, and welcome to the Open Door Show from Property CEO. My name is Richard Clapson, and it's good to have you here. Now, of course, some of you may well be new to the show this evening, and of course, some of you will be regulars. And of course, the regulars amongst you will be working out what's different. So we're going to play a little game to start with. What is different to normal? What is missing? You can put it in the chat box if you want. What's missing from this show? So have a little guess. Is it cufflinks? Is it the watch? What is actually missing? Oh, no one's put anything in the chat box yet, so they probably clearly don't know. They haven't actually spotted it, which is great because okay, Jacqueline wins the prize. Jacqueline says, where is Ian? I actually thought none of you noticed for a minute, but he's not here. Ian is fishing. Ian's actually gone fishing. So apologies for that, but he's not here this evening. He can't make this evening's show. But you know, I don't think that's a great loss. I've flown solo before, and I think it's going to be a fantastic evening. It will probably be one of the best shows, and I bet when it goes up on YouTube, it will have the most views. So we'll see how we get on. So look, it's good to have you here. And just in case this is your first time with us, let me tell you what you've let yourself in for. That was easy to say, wasn't it? You've got 45 minutes of non-stop positivity, and it is all set around the theme of business and, of course, property development. Business partner Ian, he does get a mention, of course. He is around, Ian Child, and myself. We run the company here called Property CEO, and our day job is training people how to become property developers and, you know, to scale up successful in small-scale development businesses. So many people like the idea of developing property, but they often worry, you know, it's going to be too risky or too complex. So our job here is to give them the support and the training they need to do it successfully as possible, and indeed as safely as possible. And we also believe at the moment, you know, there is a global pandemic that's sort of probably coming back again, and a recession, but there are always opportunities that are lying around the corner. And really, you know, those existing developers have always taken advantage of those. So really, if you sit still and do nothing, you won't achieve anything. But it's those that actually go out and grab these things that actually make the difference. So back in 2008 onwards, in that recession, there's a lot of developers made a lot of money. So make this your time, make this your chance to go out and do something. As always, we'll be serving up advice, you know, predictions, and of course we have a guest. So it's not solely me this evening, just rabbiting on all night. So effectively, it's a bit of training, I guess, as well. So a lot of people say they get some useful tips and ideas out of this. But above all, we're going to have a bit of fun doing it. So that's what we're about. So what we do need, though, is questions. So unless you put any questions in the question box, it will just be me and our guest just having a bit of a chat. So that's what we'll be doing. I'm going to bring our guest on in just a minute. So let's get started. Let's see who's on this evening. So Alison's on, Deal's on, Jacqueline, Debs, and Richard. Oast House Ollie is on. Oast House Ollie. Well, actually, that is Bob, who is out there. His strategy really, his focus is on building and taking on barns and converting them into residential. And he always tries to put some rather pathetic attempt at sort of disguising himself. So Oast House Ollie, in brackets, Bob is on this evening. Julian's on, Simon's on, Ranjit's on, Clive, Roma, James Pardeep is on, Jackie, Dan, Karen, Colin, Sammy, Stephen, Paul, Sarah, Jin. Who else is on? Let's just scroll down. Harjinder, Will, quite a few of you. Excellent. God, welcome this evening. And in the chat box, you put in the comments in there, which is really, really good already. Debs and Richard were out the blocks too early. They put a very good evening to Mr. and Mr. C. Well, there's only one Mr. C this evening, as I've already said, and they said they're sat there with looks like a nice glass of wine and a bit of cheese. So that is a really good. And Ranjit from Property Investor News, good little read that, by the way. He says, good evening, Ian. Ian's not here, Ranjit. You already spotted that. You're a little bit too early. And all you lovely Property CEO attendees, that's the rest of you out there. Ranjit Singh from Property Investor News here. So there we go. There's Ranjit Singh from Property Investor News. He's got a few mentions already. And Alison says, good evening. Really looking forward to tonight's star guest. Oh, star guest is Alison. Well, you know, maybe you would know. I have no idea whether he's a star guest, but we will find out. And Julian says, you are broadcasting from Australia. Does that mean I'm upside down on yours? Well, let me just check. Hands up. Can you all hear and see me? And am I up the right way? Put a hands up. Put a hands up. Or maybe it's just you, Julian. Maybe it's because you're Australian. That's what you're thinking. Everyone thinks I'm okay. Or maybe that's a bit of humor and I can't quite work it out. Anyway, Ranjit says, thanks for the books. Well, he got a book. And Jacqueline says, fishing? Seriously? Never had Ian down as a fisherman. Well, to be honest, Jacqueline, yes, he is that boring. And, you know, that's fishing. That's what fishermen are about. If there's any other fishermen on tonight, I do apologise. I don't want to upset you. And Pardeep says, evening, Mr. C. Good evening. Richie only says, Dill. You said, what is different? That was my guess. Ah, that was your guess, Julian. Julian's guess was that we're broadcasting from Australia. See, Julian didn't even notice that Ian wasn't here. And James Bill says, looking forward to hearing Dom's views. Good stuff. And good evening all. Sue, she's just logged on, I guess. Yes, she has. And Simon's just logged on as well. So a few people still logging on. So yes, we have a guest this evening. And so, as always, we ask you what you want as guests. So please let us know what else you want on here, who you want us to chat to, what you want to bring on board. And you actually said a couple of times, and we've had one a while ago, you said, can we bring on another one of our students? Can we bring on someone who has done this transition, is out there at some point in their journey developing? You know, they've made that leap and they've gone across. And someone that's, you know, doing really well, you know, they've really got an eye for this. Is someone that we think is going to be super successful. You asked us to bring someone on that we really believed in, that we thought was going to be successful, and we're doing all the right things. So, but they couldn't make it. They couldn't make it. So instead, we managed to get Dom on. So we've got Dominic Bey-Perrin on. He's not going to be that good as a developer, I don't think, but he's giving it a go, and you can't, you know, you can't knock a trier. So we're going to bring Dom on and see if he's there. Dom's company is called Bey-Perrin. Dom, are you there this evening, Dom? Yes, he is. Look at that.
Hello, everybody. How are you all?
Well, they can't answer you, Dom, because it's a webinar, but let me ask them to put a hands up, because Dom's asked you a question. Put a hands up if you're good, because Dom's asked how you are. Yeah, there's a few hands gone up, so I'm guessing there's a sort of a balance there, that some are okay, some are not so good. But yeah, Dom, hopefully that introduction, you know, has stood you well, really, for the show this evening. And as I say, Dom is, you know, he's a trier, and no one wants to knock a trier. And actually, no, joking. Dom is a terrific guy. We've been working with Dom a few months now, and I thoroughly enjoy working with him. I enjoy spending time with him. I was actually with him yesterday, and I felt all the better for it. It made my day yesterday to bump into Dom and spend a bit of time with him. And no, Dom, this is genuine. This is heartfelt. This stuff. And so so it's good. And he is really doing some good stuff. Dom is going to be super successful. So please throw any questions at Dom tonight about how has he got there, what's his mindset, what's he doing, and so on and so forth. But Dom, so good evening, welcome to the show. Hopefully you're not going to miss the fact that Ian's not here.
I think actually Ian makes the show, if I'm honest with you, but you know, I'm sure you'll do all right.
Dom, you should realise I have a control panel here, and I can turn your camera off, and I can do a solo show entirely on my own, and the audience would probably prefer that. So it's at the gracious and the goodness of my heart that I let you stay here. Dom, can you start? Obviously, we put a great email out, and we said this guy used to be a bomb disposal person, then he became a pilot, and now he's a developer. Can you give a bit of background to who Dominic Bey-Perrin is and what Bey-Perrin's all about?
Yeah, sure. Well, I won't go back too far, but I think my issues really struggled when I was at school. I was absolutely hopeless at school. My parents struggled and saved to send me to a private school, public education, all that public school education, completely wasted on me. I couldn't cope with Latin. I spent my entire time looking out the window, and walked away with, I think I got some GCSEs or O levels or something, but the rest of it was an unmitigated disaster. And really what I struggled with was the whole continuum of having to do stuff every single day for the long term, 5 years, 10 years. It was something I was kind of struggling with. And there was a guy there whose father or his uncle was in the army, and funny enough, he was in the SAS, and it was all very intriguing as to what that was about. And it all sounded quite sort of amazing and sexy, jumping out of helicopters and things. I thought, you know what, that's something I'd really like to do. And it was a very naive schoolboy thing at the time. And then when I got to 18, I left school, didn't quite know what was going on. I actually decided that that's what I would go and do. So I wrote to the Army, and I ended up joining 21 SAS, did selection, and it actually helped me an awful lot in settling down my mind. Having been told that I was useless and what have you, I then went and joined this organisation that just took me on face value. I was 18 years old, I knew nothing, but at the time I thought I knew everything, and they just took me at face value and said, look, do you know what, let's see how you get on. Nobody had ever done that to me before, and it gave me a huge level of confidence. Failed selection the first time, got through it the second time, and thought, you know what, this is something really quite good. One of the guys in there then said, look, Dom, you know, you're 20, I think I was 21 at the time, said, look, you know, you really need a career, you really need to go and do something. This whole jumping out of helicopters is good for so long, but it's not really a long-term career thing. How about becoming an ammunition technician, earn loads of money, and the secondary role for that is the bomb disposal role. And I thought, you know what, that quite like that. And these pilots, they seem to have a nice, easy life. So I thought, you know what, if I could save up my money, I could do that. And the highest paid trade in the Army is the bomb disposal trade. So I did that. They said, oh, you never get in, you never achieve it. The selection for that is so hard, forget it. So I said, no, that's exactly what I want to do. And I put my mind to it, got through the course. I think it's about 18 months, 2 years to qualify. And then ultimately did 7 years in the trade as a bomb disposal operator, saving up my money in order to become a pilot, and got to the end of my 10 years, saved up 100,000, and then blew it on how to become an airline pilot course. So I went down to Bournemouth, said, I want to be an airline pilot, here's my 100,000. And they said, it's an 18-month course, 0 to hero. Said, perfect, sign me up. So I signed up for the airline pilots course, came out of that, and then went into the airline game. Joined a fantastic company up in Stansted, where we have 10 aircraft. They sit there doing nothing all the time. But if you need an aircraft at short notice, we guarantee to be airborne within the hour of your phone call, and we'll fly anywhere in the world to recover or do whatever you want us to do. So very mission orientated, very goal orientated, and that really appeals to me. That's down to my that's really up my street. So I then thought, well, actually, this airline pilot thing is just a career. I mean, it's an employee type position, not really doing anything for myself. So I thought, well, I ought to go and get a business, and then I could build the business up. And then I got involved with Budgeons, who was selling off their supermarkets. And there was a supermarket in Norfolk that was on sale for £1.5 million. And I literally just went to the bank and I said, look, I'm looking to borrow £1.5 million. And they said, yeah, sure. Have you got a business plan? Oh, crikey. Yeah, hang on a minute. Let me go get one of those. So I came up with a business plan. And they said, yeah, this is a really good business plan. I thought, blimey, this is amazing. And ultimately, they lent me the money. It was back in the days when if you wanted £10,000, the bank would say no. Ask them for £1.5 million. They take you out for lunch. And I just kind of blagged my way through that. And they said, oh, you need 700,000 for stock and 50,000 for your tills. And so what Budgeons then, or the whole business there, it taught me a number of things. Big money, it's a mindset thing. £1.5 million. I've never even contemplated that before. I inherited 63 staff, never had staff of that sort of size before. And the business was turning over 6.5 million, and I had no experience, and so I had to really sort of get my stuff together. The airline, I asked the airline if I could take some time off to go and get my head around all of this. So the company was great. They said, yeah, over the winter, take 3 months off, go and do it. And they were quite supportive. So that's what I did. So I did 3 months, and I was stacking shelves. I had a store manager, told me how to stack a shelf. It was Steve, who was great. So I just got in amongst it, traded that for a year or 2 years or so. And ultimately, I was getting stock in, local providers. I'm pulling a team together. and I was getting them to sell their product on my shelves. Did quite well, sold it, made a profit, put the money into property, because at that time I'd signed up for one of these educational type courses, blew 16,000 on doing that. Learned quite a lot. One of the biggest lessons I learned was probably that wasn't what I should have done, but I didn't know until I'd done it. Got these tenanted, these buy-to-lets things going on. I've got an HMO, got that going on. And I've now realized that toilets and tenants, I just don't get on with them all that well. I mean, honestly, Richie, you know, I've had a bath for the best part of 40 years of my life, and I seem to go through bathrooms one a year at the moment. So God only knows what these tenants do. And the last lot had concrete down the toilet, and I was like, you know what, I don't know. So tenants and toilets, property, I thought, oh, maybe this isn't for me. And then stumbled across Ian, who I thought was really good, introduced me to propertyCEO and said, look, you know, why are you doing this? Toilets, tenants, buy-to-lets, HMOs, come and have a look at us. And that's how I got involved. I kind of followed propertyCEO for about 18 months, 2 years, just to see who was dealing with them, what they were up to, what they were saying. I was quite impressed, went to visit them a couple of times. Ian was pretty good, I thought. And then then sort of settled myself down and finally signed up for the course. Thoroughly enjoy it, and here I am. Can't believe it.
So that very quick introduction was good, and there's a few sort of laughing, smiling faces and tears coming down people's eyes in the chat box in here. So that quick introduction was great. But can you tell me then, because people want to hear this, and then we'll get some questions going, because there's a few questions already coming in here. Tell me, where are you now then? So your business is Bey-Perrin. Tell me where your property business is, and just give us a quick 3 or 4 minute overview of that.
Sure. So one of the things we've done is we first identified the area that we wanted to be developing in, and it's, in essence, it's about an hour's drive from where I live, which is Stansted Airport, and it covers sort of Cambridge, Colchester, a little Bury St Edmunds, Ware, Hertfordshire, Harlow. So that's the area that I operate in. And what I've done since coming on board, I've sorted out my website, so that's up and running. I've met a couple of funders in London for senior debt funding. I've had a long chat with them over the last 6 months, making sure that they are the sort of people that I would like to work with, and they seem to like the idea of working with me. Got a VA to help me, a virtual assistant to help me doing analysis. And my overall project is to look at 100 properties a month, do analysis of 30, put 10 offer letters out a month, of offer letters that I know would work if they were to accept them. And it's a numbers game. So I expect 95% to be rejected, but that leaves 5% over the course of a year to be accepted. Minimum net profit, 200,000. So that's 1.2 million a year is what I'd like to, is my target. I need to do 3. My target is 6. And to that end, I'm meeting about 25 agents every 3 months. I spend a week going out visiting all of them, and I'm just about to do a direct vendor letter campaign of 2,000 letters. There you go.
Wow, good stuff. That was good. That was a good overview, guys. Look, hopefully that's interesting. So I hope that is definitely going to generate some questions, which it already has done to date. So here's a question from Helen. So Helen is obviously the fact that you still are an airline pilot at the moment, and you know you're juggling everything around here. You no longer have the supermarket, though, do you?
No, I sold that.
Supermarket's gone, so don't worry about that, Helen. Because Helen says, how do you manage to find the time to meet with agents, look at sites, etc., when you have another job? Has this held you back in any way?
I think it concentrates the mind and coming up with a plan. And making every day count is probably the most important thing. But in there, I think it's also important to put white space in there. You need to put space in the diary or in your week where you just do nothing. And then the time that you do have available, make it count. But very important also not to just fill your entire day up, but important to get white space so you can think about stuff as well.
And when you have white space, as you called it, to do nothing, what is your do nothing? What do you actually do?
Well, I'm a daydreamer, so I'm constantly just tripping over ideas and thoughts. I've got a notebook, and I will write ideas down. I'll take photographs of things to jog my memory. But that's how I relax, is just thinking about stuff. I'm a great thinker, a plotter and a planner.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. Debbie says, what have been, or what has been, I think probably, what has been the biggest challenge you've encountered so far? Debbie asks you.
Biggest challenge in property, I would say.
I think so. I think it's property. I think probably she's not thinking about bomb disposal or jumping out of helicopters. I think Debbie's thinking about what's your biggest challenge in property. Obviously, Debbie, please clarify in the chat box if you want to know a little bit more about the SAS, then we can ask Dom that.
I think the biggest challenge is if you're not thinking big enough, you need to be thinking so big that other people think you're crackers or crazy.
There you go, Debbie. Hopefully that's answered that question in what you will see to be a Dominic Perrin style of answer to all sorts of things in his life. Ash's question. So let's crack through a few of these. So Ash says, do you have a professional team? If so, how easy was it to get them in place and convince them to work for you when you've not done development before? Because you haven't done development before. You say you've done your buy-to-lets and HMOs. So how difficult was it to get your professional team together?
So I do have a professional team which I've put together, and they're all on my website. For me, the key person there was Kate, the architect. She's also a project manager, and I was introduced to her some time ago, and I just went and said, look, this is what I'm about. This is what I'm hoping to do. These are the numbers. This is the projects I'm hoping to turn over and find. And I gave a credible story, enough for her to go, do you know what? I'll help you sort this out for you.
Yeah, yeah. So you started with your architect, and then from your architect, you pulled others together. So what have you got in terms of professionals? Just to maybe get a little bit more detail for Ash here. What have you got in terms of professional team around you?
So 2 architects involved in that, Kate and Todd, cost consultant, structural engineer, and an accountant as well.
And did you have to convince them in any way? I mean, what when you went to see them, and you went to see, as you say, your architect in the first place, who was also your project manager, when you went to see them, did they take convincing, or how, you know, what was their reception like to you?
I think very good. It wasn't something that I just sort of dropped into a conversation. It was there was a project that I was working on up in the northwest in Whitehaven, and I needed some guidance, some advice, and it was during that conversation I then said, look, can I come up and have a chat? So then went up, spoke to them, and then I sent a photographer up there to get the images done. So it's been a conversation that's been going on. You know, I think when they said yes, we'd already been speaking for probably 2-3 months about it. And I wanted to be sure that they knew I wasn't wasting their time, and that I would genuinely be working hard to try and find projects. And in between times, we've found 5 projects down here that we wanted a closer look at, and Kate came down and we went through those projects, and came up some cost analysis and what have you over that basis. So it's a relationship such that I wouldn't want to waste their time with anything, and that we're serious. But it's enough there to show the bank, it's enough to show people that, you know, I have got a credible team to pass projects on, get an opinion, and get something floated if needed be.
Good. Ash, hopefully that answers that question. Dan says, this is quite topical. Dan says, what are your thoughts? So he's after your opinion here, Dom. What are your thoughts on someone starting a development business journey now with a recession on?
I'm a great believer in profit in confusion, and I think we're in this market space at the moment where nobody really knows what's going on. people did have defined paths that they were going to be going down, and that's all been thrown up into the air. And when things like that occur, almost like in the fog of war, there's an opportunity there to be had, and it's a case of biding your time, knowing what you're looking for, and when it appears, go for it.
I think the knowing what you're looking for and when it appears, go for it is really important. I think if you go out there almost completely blind and you don't know what you're looking for, then you're never going to have any chance at all. So you've got to absolutely focus in on something and know when a good deal or good opportunity comes along. And I think really just to add to Dom's thing, Dan, what one is doing now. So if Dom gets a project now, and it's still a relatively small scale development, although he wants to grow his business, he's not going to be putting something into the market for sale for 12-18 months. So whatever Dom does now, if he won a project tomorrow, 12-18 months before he puts it into the market, by the time he's legally secured it, he's got the team, he's tendered it, and so on and so forth. Because by that time, what recession? If we're in 2022, in theory, all the experts are saying that is a time of recovery. So that's how you've got to look at it, Dan. It is a little bit more longer term in that respect. Okay. Peter says, simple question here. Has it been difficult to learn how to analyze deals? I mean, your background is not property, it's, airline pilot, army, supermarket host. Has it been difficult to learn how to analyze deals?
I thought it would be, but actually just thinking about it, breaking it down actually is perfectly logical. I thought it would be harder, if I was honest, but actually it turns out to be fine. I think there's a lot of mystique that can be thrown into this sort of thing, but actually so far, no, I've understood everything so far. And interestingly enough, I've done 2 or 3 quotations for a 9 new build site, and then an 8 new build site, and then subsequently we then got a QS to run their numbers, and I've been within 3% of their numbers.
Well, I think, Peter, it comes down to, as Dom said, in terms of education, he knows what to do. We've worked with them on that. But of course, it's not a done for you service. So we're not analysing Dom's deals. He now knows what to do to analyse them. He doesn't profess to be a cost expert, but he's going out there. And then if he thinks the deal's worthwhile, you're getting that backup, aren't you, Dom, of the cost expert? And wow, within 3%, that is really good. So there you go, Peter. No, it's not difficult to learn how to do these deals. Colin's question.
Having confidence. The secret, I think, is being confident in what you're doing.
Yes. Yeah, but you don't get confident until you know that you know what you're doing. You need to know what you don't know, and know what you're doing is right, and then you can practice and be more confident as you go forward. Okay, Colin's question is: you said you're doing another round of meeting your agents. I'm assuming you're talking about commercial agents. When you met them for the first time, with them knowing that you're new, what did you tell them? Did you tell them you were new, or what? So did you go in and blag to those estate agents when you first went in, or did you go and tell them that you were new?
No, I was actually pretty straight up. To be honest, there were a couple who never asked, and the conversation never went round to working that out. It just didn't happen that way. And I suspect they just assumed that I've been in the game for a long period of time. Nearly all of them had checked out my website. I can't think of any that hadn't. I think when I started off, I had a bit of a patter, so I felt confident as I went in there. And I just said, look, I started off with my buy-to-lets up in the northeast. I ran aground and got bored with the whole toilets and tenants thing. I kind of got involved with a doctor's surgery conversion, which is in the process of being sold at the moment. And actually, I want to move the development project into this area. And as a consequence to that, I'm meeting new agents in this area to establish my business in this area. And that's just how I had it. And they were like, fantastic, great. We've got these 3 things for you to look at, or got nothing at the moment, or fantastic, we've got I think there's some Stratton Parker in Colchester, I think, have invited me to their knees up, or once a month, or whatever it is, and they just welcomed me in. So yeah, it wasn't as scary at all. Just be honest. Don't lie.
I think that don't lie, don't blag, Colin, is so important, because the agents and indeed anyone in this industry, and I've been kicking around this industry a long time, as some people know, nearly 40 years, that we will spot a newbie developer a mile off, and the chances are a number of those agents knew that Dom was new. They didn't need to ask it, because actually he's presenting himself in the right way. He's obviously booked up these meetings, because they've obviously gone on and checked his website before he's even got there. He's put on his website his team. He's got his credibility straight out the blocks. And then if he's chosen to go on in a blag that said, yeah, I've done this, I've done that, he's going to get caught out. Well, he hasn't had to do that. He's had to go in and he's got his backstory. And his backstory is this, and now looking for some new stuff. And they've welcomed you with open arms. So you definitely don't lie. You never need to. So that's good. Okay, James's question. He said you mentioned having goals so big that people think you're crackers. What are some of your goals? Love that, James. You'll be remembered for this, Dom. This is what you've remembered. Goals so big that people will think you're crackers. So what's your goals?
I think I don't know. My goals at the moment, in terms of my business plan at the moment, I've got a plan to make over the next 5 years 3.5 to 4 million, and within that period of time, I'd like to scale back the flying. At the moment, I'm flying as an airline pilot. I'm a director of an airline, and there's particularly at this moment there's a lot of pressure in the airline community, and I'd like to get to a point where I just fly for fun. And I think that's achievable in 3 years. I think all the crazy stuff I've done and I've enjoyed it. But I think my wife would probably tell me that actually, you've done all you should be doing for now. Okay. Hopefully that's answered a bit of that, James. There's another follow-on question here, which might give some more clarification. As George says, what sort of size projects are you looking at, and why? So this will also add to James's question as well. Yeah, so I'm looking at projects between 1 million and 2 million is where I'm aiming at. I think if I go too small, then I start losing lenders. So one of the lenders has said that minimum lend is 1 million from them. And if I get less than that, they're just saying, Dom, it's just not worth getting the paperwork out and signing the deal up. So minimum lend is 1 million. So that puts me straight into one particular area already. And I think 1 to 2 million is big enough. Too small, people aren't interested. The returns are probably not there. Too big, and then I'm into a different animal. I probably start needing full-time staff. I don't want to be full-time. I don't want to have any more responsibility to look after other people. I'd like to stay as a one-man band, or 2 or 3 people working part-time but frequently together. More than happy with that. Don't want to get back into the realms of having staff of 15 or 20 just to cope with £5 million projects or what have you. Good stuff. I hope that has answered that. Adam says, excellent answers, Dom. That's good. And he goes on to say, I'm enjoying this evening even better. How difficult is it, in your opinion, to find a good deal? Oh, crikey. How difficult? I don't think it is difficult. I think if you talk about how difficult it is, it puts the wrong mindset into your head straight away. I think the way to deal with it is to understand how high is that mountain and how do you intend to crack it? How are you going to climb it? And for me, I'm putting the systems in place in order to control my 100 projects a month, analyze my 30, and then get my 10 offer letters out. I started off 3-4 months ago saying, right, I want 100 projects a month. And then I was getting lost in spreadsheets. I was getting lost in web clippings, notes, emails to cost consultants and things like that. And I went, this is crazy. If I'm trying to do 100 deals a month, I need to have a process in place to deal with it. And this is all about, what is the mountain that you set yourself? 100 deals a month to look at, 30, then 10. So how are you going to climb it? And it's putting those systems and processes in place so that I've got a nice seamless method of doing the analysis, and then putting the offer letters out. And that's how you do it. So actually, how difficult is it putting a system in place? I don't think it's that difficult at all. You just got to do it. Otherwise, it'll just be a pain in the rear.
Interesting there, Adam, that Dom's talking about systems. Yes, you've got to find a deal, but he's helping systems process him to do that. And coincidentally, it's funny, I'm actually speaking at an event tomorrow all about how difficult it is to find deals or not. And my take on it is actually it's not that difficult. When you know what you're looking for and you're looking in the right places and you understand how to analyze a deal. So, Adam, hopefully that is all useful. My question it says from Dominic. So this is not from Dominic. I think this is a typo. It says my question for Dominic. Has it been harder or easier than you thought before you started? Claire wants to know.
It's been a lot more enjoyable, and I find the whole teamwork thing right up my strata. Whereas I found the whole buy-to-let thing, the HMO thing, I found that really lonely, and I didn't enjoy that at all. This method, this property CEO thing, is great because you're meeting with agents, you're making friends, and then you don't have to deal with all the agents. You just deal with the ones that you really like or you get on with, or are prepared to go and invite you out for a beer or what have you. So it's become an extension of a social contact. I can work with my architect, I can work with the team, I like them, and if I have a problem that comes in, I don't know how to solve it, I can email one of the guys and say, look, can you have a look at this? We couldn't price up a job in Ely, so I passed the project to the architect and I said, I can't get this to stack up. And she was right, okay, well, let's try and do it like this. And then we went back to the lender and said, look, we think we can make it work like this. So I think because I enjoy it, I think it's a lot easier. The whole buy-to-let thing I found incredibly stressful, and you're dealing with really cold-hearted people usually, mortgagers, mortgage companies sending their letters, and you've got the solicitors. No, it's not for me.
Interesting there. So, development is hard work, but if you enjoy what you're doing, then it's not work. I often say to people, I retired 10 years ago. A lot of people say, well, why on earth are you doing what you're doing? And we actually tend to work more hours. I'm sat here in the studio this time of night doing stuff because I enjoy it. It doesn't feel like work when we enjoy what we do. And I was, as I say, with Dom and some other students yesterday teaching, and it's great fun. We just love it. Claire, hopefully that's answered your question. Okay, a couple ones here. Mark says, thank you, property CEO. Another great guest. That's you, Dom, by the way. That's a compliment for you. Question for Dom. Do you have a business partner or is it just you? And the second bit, and then what do you think of JVs? Ooh, 2 for the price of 1 there. 2 questions from Mark.
So the company is jointly owned between myself and my wife, Alison, and I don't have a business partner per se outside of our marriage or what have you. So yeah, my business partner is Alison. And JVs, do you know, I have been involved in a JV before, and I know Ian and Richie talk about making sure you've got shared values. I couldn't stress that how important that is. We tied up this doctor's surgery with a nice guy. We thought it'd be all right. We thought we'd sign up to it. And in the end, we ended up pulling the project because it just wasn't going to work. So if I can avoid doing a JV, I would.
Brilliant. Okay, Mark, hopefully that's useful, and I'd agree with that. And this is quite topical from James. because you mentioned, I mean, Dom was, for a lot of you, James's question is I think it's the killer question of the night, because the way Dom is talking about, he does this, he's done that, he's done this, and he's got all this happening, and he's still got a day job. So James's question is, how do you manage a work-life balance? And if your wife's listening this evening, we'd love to know what she would think. So how do you manage a work-life balance? And we do know that Dom's wife is listening this evening, because I can see her logged on. So Dom's going to think very carefully how he answers this. Alison might better put a thing in the chat box to say he doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think...
Before you answer it, Dom, if you want, I can give you what Alison's put in the chat box.
Yeah, go on then.
No, I won't. You go first, and then I'll tell you what she's put in there. James, you're a star, James.
Oh God, I'm a restless soul, and I'm constantly, as I said, I'm a daydreamer. I'm constantly thinking things over, turning up ideas, looking at doing this, looking at doing that. So I think having the time to do that is quite nice. But you know, I've got a gym instructor I go and meet with 3 times a week. I do squash on a Wednesday evening. I'm a keen shooter. I shoot for the army team, or have done. Not doing that at the moment, but yeah, escapism, going out doing stuff is how I probably relax.
Interesting. I tell you, the plot thickens on here. I'm sat looking at all these things coming in. So first of all, James, terrific question there. How do you manage your work-life balance? And Alison, which is Dom's wife, has put in, because she said it's hard, but he's got a really good diary. We plan everything, and I manage his diary! ! So that's really important. And James, who asked the question, James says it's James, Dom's personal trainer, by the way. Yeah, Dom, they're trying to stitch you up here this evening. Good stuff. Excellent. I love that question, James. That is really good. Julian's got a question here. Do you have private investors? And if so, how do you source them? Excellent, Julian. Nice question.
Oh, crikey. So there's 2 in mind. I probably won't mention their names on here, if you don't mind.
No, absolutely not. Don't.
So one I met in London probably about a year or so ago, who was a property investor. Again, I went to go and visit him. We've met 2 or 3 times in London. We always start off by having a nice meal and talking about what investments he's done recently, what I've been up to, just building a relationship, and then just usually getting drunk somewhere. So we've met up, I think, probably about 4 times, 5 times, something like that. And we had lunch a couple of weeks back, and I said, look, this is what I'm looking at doing. And he said, look, Dom, I'll be right behind you on that. Yeah, that sounds great. Let me know what the next project is, and we'll talk through the numbers. And then the other character, really nice guy, and I helped him out. Not that he needed my help, but circumstances meant that we came into close contact with one another some years ago within the airline game. He's subsequently left the airline, and I've went and had lunch with him, and I said, look, I'm thinking about doing this. And he said, look, I've got some cash, I need to tie it up, but I know who you are and I know where you live, so this could work.
Good stuff. That sounds like a veiled threat there. Julian, hopefully that answered that. Sarah also asked a question earlier. How have you found raising money, both private and commercial? Any major obstacles? But I think we've answered that. We've pretty much run out of time, but I'm going to have one more question in here. Let's make it a good one. Let's see what I've got. And apologies, guys, we're not going to be able to answer everything that's in this evening. Here's one from Karen. End on this, Dom. Give us a nice succinct answer to this. What advice would you give someone who is completely new and just thinking about getting into property development?
Don't let your fears hold you back.
Love it. Love it. Well, let's leave it on that final statement. I think that's brilliant. Dom, thank you for coming on. I really hope people enjoyed that. I hope they enjoyed your story at the beginning, and the questions and answers were great. Guys, give us a wave, give us a hands up if you've enjoyed the show this evening with Dom. Yes, undoubtedly, all the hands have pretty much shot up. Just one or two. Oh no, they're all. Yes, looks like, yeah. Even Pardeep's put his hand up. Well done, Pardeep. You must have enjoyed that. And Clive, yes, excellent, good. Ranjit keeps flashing his on and off. Ranjit from Property Investor News, by the way. I always have to give him several mentions. And he thinks if he flashes his hand on and off, he gets an extra mention, which obviously he did. And Yvonne, and you know who Yvonne is, by the way, Dom. She says great stuff, Dom. So that's terrific. Dom, thank you for coming on. I do apologise, although it was most amusing that I've got here not only your wife but your personal trainer asking you questions and helping out on the show this evening. And to be honest, I prefer the show without Ian, and I know you do, although you're not prepared to say it. He's not able to even listen this evening, but he will be listening to the rerun. So obviously, just leave it at that, Dom. Don't make any further comment. Dom, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks for coming on, and maybe we'll connect up with you again in the future and see how things are going and see if you're still as crazy as ever.
Richie, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you very much. Thank you. What do you think of that? Eh? Guy's a nightmare, isn't he? He's all over the place. But no, I mean, Dom, I love Dom. Love spending time with Dom. You know, he's an inspiration, as he said. Don't let your fear hold you back. He's a dynamic guy. He's just out there doing it. He's going for it. Now, I don't expect all of you to go out there and want to do the same scale as Dom or grow as big as Dom in terms of what you're trying to do with your business. And you can certainly do something a lot more small, a lot more manageable. But it shows you there, really, with the right mindset. And we talk a lot about mindset here at propertyCEO, what you can go and do. And you can get that work-life balance, but it's about planning and processes and control. Dom is going to be super successful. It's great. This is why we do what we do. We love just watching this journey, watching people's journey as they go forward. So we really do enjoy it, and we wish him all the luck in the world, and for him and Alison, who's obviously been on this evening. Look, hopefully you've enjoyed that. As ever, please let us know in the chat box just as we sign out. Our next show is next Thursday. We're on weeklies now at Thursdays at 7 p.m. Same time, same place. We'll be back next Thursday. And yeah, okay, just give me a hands up. Let me know if you want Ian to come back next week. Okay, no hands up. I can't see any hands going up on there, Ian. If you listen to the replay, there's definitely no hands. All right, okay, guys. All right, I'll bring it back. I'll bring it back. Yoko, your hand was going up and down there. We don't want that. We don't want him. But all right, Ian can come back next Thursday. We'll be back here. Please, if you think this is interesting and useful, please bring a friend, introduce a friend to the show. We like people coming on board here. And check us out on YouTube if you've missed previous editions of the show. They're all on propertyCEO YouTube channel. You can go right the way back and re-listen. And early next week, the interview with Dom will be up, just in case you came on late or you missed any of it. So please, as we sign off, just let us know in the chat box if you've enjoyed today's show. And it looks like you have. Yvonne says, great. Ranjit says, Property Investor News, by the way. He says, great show as always. Good night, Richie, says Alison, the wife of Dom. Thanks for your lovely comments too. Yoko says, thank you. Yes, please, for Ian. Can he tell us a fishing story? It really, Yoko, we don't need that. That'd be boring. It really will be boring. I'll ask him, but I don't think it'd be boring. It's not worth it. Oh, Simon's asked that, not Yoko. Sorry, it's going up and down and I missed it. Looking forward to having Ian back though, says Yoko. Super show, says Pardeep. And smiley faces all round from Yoko. Goodbye from Karen. Goodbye from Helen. And Sarah says, great show, thoroughly enjoyed it. My first time on, but I'll be back next week. Good stuff. See you next Thursday. Have a good evening. Have a good weekend. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.